Welkom terug by die groot ontbyt. Ons het die voorreg vanmôre om te gesels met Phaahla, hy is eintlik die hoof van kommunikasie en bemarking van die Kruger Nasionale Park. En ons gaan 'n bietjie praat oor die reën wat in die park geval het. As jy op pad is Kruger toe, wil jy seker weet, hoe gaan dit daar? Hoe lyk dit daar? Waar kan 'n mens ry? Wat is die planne? Nou, Isaac is natuurlik die man om meer te praat. Good morning, Ike.
Goeiemôre aan julle Pierre en Francois en al die kykers van die groot ontbyt. En baie dankie vir die uitnodiging.
It is an absolute privilege to have you here this morning, Ike. Obviously, the Kruger Park is something that's very close to most of our hearts, and we love being there. So we're all worried about the park, about how you guys are doing, if you're keeping, so to speak, head above water. When we talk about the rivers at this stage and the rain is not only in the park, it's also coming from adjacent areas, flooding into the park with the rivers. What are the big rivers that are experiencing the most flooding at this stage that you are struggling with?
Well, we really are not struggling that much because the rain that we got was the expected average rain, although it was, we had quite a lot of a huge rush from outside, as you mentioned, but it was the Sebi, the Sand, Olifants, Letaba, all of them were at high levels. Levubu itself was at a high level last seen in 2013.
Wow.
We had most of the flooding localized, especially south of the Olifants. That's from Olifants down to Skukuza. So it wasn't widespread and as severe as the previous floods that we have seen.
So luckily, like you say, it's not that severe. It's not an above average expected amount of rainfall and water in the park. Yet there was damage to certain roads. Are these? What were those roads, and are they open at this stage, or are they still being repaired?
The biggest concern was around low-lying bridges.
Yeah.
And that's when you go from Skukuza down to Lower Sabi, and also when you have to cross the Letaba coming from Palaborwa. Those were the biggest concerns. We closed the gravel roads for precaution because you also have very low-lying bridges there.
Yeah.
So it was precautionary, but most of the tarred roads were open, except the Lower Sabi Skukuza road. You'll remember that 2-3 years ago, we suffered catastrophic failure to the bridge, and we did come up with a detour. That detour was partly washed away, but it has been repaired. It's been looked at, I beg your pardon, not repaired, but people who would like to access Lower Sabi have to go through Chokwane and use the high water bridge because most of the viewers are familiar with the Kruger, so they will have to use the high water bridge.
On the Chokwane side, yes.
On the Chokwane side, yes, because that direct route has been affected. It's still going to be assessed by engineers, and possibly we will appoint a contractor very soon to make a permanent repair to that route.
Well, I told Pierre earlier that I've only been to Skukuza from the southern side of the national park, and that river flowing there is just something to see. So I can just imagine what it looks like at the moment.
Yeah, Pierre, you have to try the north as well. Watching the Levubu River flow, it's quite magical because if you look at it during the winter or dry period, it's almost done, but once it goes up, it's just magical. Also, the Limpopo River, I was there 3 weeks ago. It was at its lowest, but when I went there during the rains, it was magical to watch. But having perennial rivers like the Sabi River flowing, it's always great. Our concern was mostly with the browsers and the grazers, but also concern for the animals that live in the rivers, your crocodiles and the hippos, that they would run out of habitat. That's why we are relieved that we received this rain, I beg your pardon.
Most of us saw the social media posts from various sources of rivers coming down, flash floods running into the park, which is a wonderful thing to have water in the park, flowing through the park. But now a lot of the visitors would like to know, we know about the route that you have to take now, the detour through Tsokwane, but now we also need to know, is there anything else? How do we get there? What's the issues? If there are issues for motorists and for visitors to the park, is there a specific number they can phone or a website they can visit to get more information? Previously, I looked at the Sandparks website and I struggled to find a clear description of what's happening now. Where can people access this information?
On our social media platforms, on X as well as on Facebook, we do post all the updates on which roads are being affected. Currently, all the gates, 9 gates of the Kruger National Park are open and operational. And the concern is just with those with the route from Skukuza to Lower Sabi. Otherwise, everything else is operational. We had Talamati, which was closed off for precautionary measures, and Balule, and those are operational as well. They are our bush camps. So there is no concern. And if you go to our social media pages, you'll be able to get those updates. Or you can call 013-735-4000 or 4001, and you'll be directed to the correct people who can give you all the updates. If you are in the park already, you have some concerns, start at your reception where you are at the rest camp, and they will give you information which is updated.
Ike, you know, they say Africa is not for sissies. So I assume the local people who will visit the park, they will know that they have to be very cautious. But sometimes you find that the people coming from abroad, they're very nieuwsgierig, as ek daai Afrikaanse woord kan gebruik. And then they want to see stuff, and they're not always looking for all the danger that's happening. Can you guarantee people's safety in the park?
We can't guarantee the safety of people in the park, except that we can ask them to be extra cautious when approaching low-lying bridges. 2 years ago, we had a German tourist, and he was trying to cross the Letaba Bridge, and the water was flowing so strong. Fortunately, our chopper was in the vicinity, and we had our head ranger, we had our head of conservation who was there as well. And some experienced rangers, they managed to get a rope around him and pulled him down to safety. Unfortunately, his car could not be saved. But we ask people to be extra caution when they approaching those low-lying bridges, and also not to remove the no entry signs. When you see a no entry sign, there is a reason why we have it there.
Yes.
And this is a special call to open safari vehicle operators, because sometimes they can try and be mavericks and open up those roads, because they want to get the overseas tourists to see the Big Five, and that is where they make their money and get their tips from. But you can't put people's lives in danger just because you want to get a tip.
Absolutely. We have to commend the Kruger National Park's disaster management team with the work they've done with these recent floods, and also but all the work they've done previously. And if people, you gave the number now, if people want to get in contact with you, as jy graag wil bel om te hoor wat aangaan, 013 735 4000 of 4001. 013 735 4000. Bel daai nommer en kry inligting. The Kruger Park is a lovely, lovely place, and although we can't guarantee your safety because there are wild animals, although we can't do that, it is a beautiful place to be. And thank you so much, Ike, for joining us this morning. It is lovely talking to you, and thank you for taking this time early in the morning.